Welcome to episode 5 of the Rambleview. We continue on, we forge ahead in our trial of 7. And I think it was cool that, or interesting that this episode is titled In the Name of the Mother. And we'll hear that a little bit later on. There's some themes about the mother in this episode, in the flashback and early on and whatnot. But
I think my opinion of this episode is going to differ from yours.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we'll get into that.
Cool. All right. And yeah, I think it's interesting that like the last episode was, the 7 or whatever, because like Dunk had to go around and find his 7 people.
To represent one for each of the 7 gods?
Yes. Yeah. And this one is called In the Name of the Mother. You would think that like the one with the battle is called the 7 or whatnot, but it's called In the Name of the Mother. And so we'll explore that a little bit in the flashback, but from a high level overview, I think again this is just another fantastic episode. I love every part of it. Yeah, I see your face. You mentioned we'll probably differ, but the flashback and everything in it, there was some incongruity with one of the characters. I felt
it starts off on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And it's Baylor is giving a pep talk to the other knights. He says these men mean to kill you, and I thought it was really cute that Egg looked up to Dunk. He didn't look at his own flesh and blood uncle like, they're gonna die. I don't want my uncle to die. No, he looks to Dunk like, oh man, I'm concerned for him. I thought that was really cute to highlight their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he's getting ready to fight, Dunk tells Egg, if you go off with my gear, I'm gonna hunt you down with dogs. And Egg gives a little woof. Like that's because didn't he say that in the inn?
Not the inn. It was in like episode 2. They're like walking on the bridge right when the Targaryens actually show up, and Egg is like, "Let me go back to the camp, to avoid meeting the Targaryens."
Right.
And that's when he's like, "If you run off with my stuff, I'll hunt you down with dogs." And Egg's like, "Where are you gonna get dogs from?" And he's like, "Woof," he just woofs at Egg, and Egg is like, "Huh."
And now the flip of the coin, Egg woofs at him. I thought that was all a cute start. Highlighting their relationship, but then it does get into. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think before getting into the flashback, I was just still trying to keep it high level but before actually diving into the flashback, I think it was interesting too when Lionel says like, "Oh, you must be mother's favorite." No one fights as hard as a son who was neglected by their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And like nobody really responds to it, but Baylor, like something happens on his face where he's just like, I think he agrees with Lionel, but I just thought that was a really weird comment out of left field from him, just because he's there giving the game plan, and Lionel's just like, "Mother loved you best, huh?"
And that was the first reference to a mother in the episode.
Yep. But then also the one-eyed warrior, he mentions like, isn't it kind of dishonorable for Baylor to try to take on the Kingsguard because the Kingsguard won't attack him because of their oath?
Mm-hmm.
And Baylor is just like, well, the gods will let us know. And I think they did by the end of the episode. They let them know.
And it's a good thing he made that comment, because we'll get back to that at the end.
But with that out of the way, let's dive into the flashback. Well, first, they had the first charge, and I think it was super cool with like the audio, what they were doing throughout the whole fight. What they were doing with the audio from Dunk's perspective and then the general perspective. Mm-hmm. That very much like World War II waiting in the landing craft, kind of like everything's quiet. You're focused. You're hyper-focused on one thing. You can see Dunk's eyes are just wide as hell in his helmet. And Egg's training with the horse pays off from earlier, where Dunk doesn't actually charge right away. Everyone's charging, and he's just sitting there like, "Oh God, what am I doing? What am I doing?" And then Egg is just yelling, "Go, yeah, whatever." And that the horse starts moving because Egg is yelling out those commands that he taught him. And that snaps Dunk into fight mode, and we charge in, and he instantly gets lanced, like straight breaks through his shield. Unfortunately, he gets knocked off his horse by Arian. And that's when we cut to the flashback. Dunk goes down.
I do like the helmet POV. It's showing you just how little you could actually see if you were a knight wearing a helmet like that. I mean, it was difficult to fight in any form, lancing or with swords back then. very constricting in the armor, and then you don't have your full range of vision, so it was really interesting.
Yeah, it's very easy to get caught off guard, which Dunk does a lot in the fight after the flashback, after we come back from it. Just from every direction. He's getting lanced again, he's getting hit by maces, and just he does not know what's going on.
Right.
So that was really fun. Before we get into all the fun fighting, we have to go through this flashback, and
that's where I was like, what? This is a cop-out. I didn't like the flashback. I know
really
Dunk grew up poor in Flea Bottom, and that he eventually met Arlen somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't need all that backstory.
Really? Okay.
But
what
you
part
liked it more than
in particular? Me. Yeah, I really liked it just because it kind of shows where when Dunk hears that get up, that's where he's pulling from. Not only from when we cut back from the flashback, Arlen ends the flashback by saying, get up. And that's when Dunk snaps to and we get back into the fight. But then at the end of the fight, when Dunk seemingly dies, right? I don't like that in this show where characters will like stare off dead and then just not be dead. I'm like, if you're not dead, I feel like you should close your eyes. And if you are dead, your eyes stay open. Like, I feel like that's the norm.
We'll get to that, but yeah, I don't know. It just I think I would have liked it better if there was a quieter episode prior to this where we did go into his past. But in the middle of this fight, it felt like to me they thought, oh shit, we forgot to do the flashback because we want him to say get up, which is going to get him up. And it was just all information that we didn't know all the details of his youth growing up, but. Did we need to know? We knew enough. I knew enough. I didn't want to go back into the past, and it was boring for me. I was like, let's get back to the present and see what the result of the fight is. Although I did like the actor they chose for young Dunk. He looks a lot like him. The eyes are identical. It's crazy.
Yeah, they did a really good job on casting with him. I really like that actor, too. He really delivers the kind of simple-minded Dunk, but still genuine, like the same kind of feel that Peter Claffey has for older Dunk.
Totally.
They did a fantastic job with that. Yeah. I kind of see where you're coming from. I think, the stuff with Rafe, his love interest at that age, was it dragged a little bit. I could see that. I just like living in the world a little bit more. So I like seeing Flea Bottom is gross and disgusting, but I thought it was weird with Rafe when on the battlefield, that's the red grass fields. For anyone who doesn't know, where Arlen lost his nephew.
Oh. And
so we'll see that a little bit later. He digs a grave for him. I actually didn't notice that in the first watch. I did notice it this time. But Rafe, says, oh, we got to say some words for this High Lord, highborn guy. So that way they don't end up in the same hell as the rest of us. But Rafe does not care about highborn. Like, she even equates like some sour ale to the Queen's own brew, meaning her piss, right? Like, she talks completely disrespectfully about anyone and everyone. Why the hell would she care about saying some words for this highborn so he doesn't end up in the same hell as the rest of them?
That guy that they were trying to pull out from under the horse, was that a real actor? Because that guy's face, the way he kept moving and moving his eyes, like, it looked like that female robot head Arnold Schwarzenegger wore in Total Recall.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh,
off the top of my head.
Because in that scene when Arnold Schwarzenegger is trying to escape to get to Mars, he's trying to go through customs to get on a flight to Mars from Earth. It's just we see this big, beefy woman going up and saying, "Here's my passport" or whatever. But then when he pulls the head off of the female head off of him. It's a mechanical head, and this is 1990 special effects technology. It looked really awkward and jerky, and the eyes were moving around. I thought that's what the guy on the ground looked like. I'm like, is that really a human doing that, or did they use? Why would they use animatronics? But it didn't look natural to me.
I think probably because he's dying. And of course, could have just been the actor doing something, and the director's like, you know what, fine, we've had 10 takes of this guy doing this. We'll just use it. yeah.
It jumped out at me, but it was weird. Anyway, back to Rafe, who that actress was in Dune Prophecy, And
oh yeah, that's why she looks familiar. Okay.
also, she looks exactly like a young female version of Robert Aramayo, who plays young Elrond in The Rings of Power. They have the exact same faces.
Yeah, I could see that. I
Their
could see that
eyes,
actually.
it's really
And like their chin and stuff. I can see like the same facial structure.
And they just look exactly alike. Like that's got to be his daughter or something. They look so much alike.
Yeah, I'll have to see if they're related at all. Because now that you've mentioned that, that's why I was recognizing her from Dune Prophecy. But then there was that other piece that's like, okay, that's who else she looks like. Yeah, that's funny. Oh man.
But you like the relationship and the backstory flashbacks, and I mean, we do get to see Arlen in action, and he seemed that was kind of weird though, because Arlen saves them and doesn't care. He moves on. He doesn't say, "Oh, young child, come with me." No, he only saves Dunk actually. But then when Dunk's following him, he's drunk and wailing, singing about, and getting drunk every night and passing out. And he accidentally stabbed himself in his sleep.
Yeah.
So and when he was like practicing his sword play, it wasn't like moves. He was just
like give him a little windmill.
Yeah. So that seemed very different from his history and from the fighting that we saw in the alley. So that was kind of weird. Their weird dichotomy there. Is he a good swordsman or is he just lucky? I don't know.
I think it's probably a mix of he's okay with the sword. He's also lucky. And also he lost his nephew at that battle. And so I think I don't think he might have been as much of a drunk before that point. But since he lost his nephew in the battle, I think that's kind of when he goes off the deep end. And the fight scene in the alley was awesome. Down and dirty.
Yeah.
Not a pretty knightly battle. It was just fight for his life. And and the way he yells like, "In the name of the mother," and he barges out and whatever. Because the mother is supposed to be the oath where you protect the innocent. In the name of the mother, you protect the innocent, or whatever the hell it was.
Okay.
And so, like, if you are innocent, that's why I think in this episode it's titled "In the Name of the Mother," is because Dunk is innocent in the accusations against him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he still did beat a prince. He's not innocent in that, but for a good reason. For a good reason. And that's why the episode is titled that, but also why Arlen yells out in the name of the mother and just chops the dude's head off. He kills the other. The one-handed guy gave him more of a fight than the other one. Eventually, kills them and walks away. He looks at Dunk, but he doesn't say anything. He just stumbles away. And I think in that moment, he's looking at Dunk and he's seeing his nephew in him. And that's what kind of drives him away. He's like, this was my chance to save.
When he bursts out of the bar, he says, like, "Don't touch the boy," or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a connection to his nephew. Although, he said it, like, before the door was even open. I was like, how does Arlen know what's going on in the alley? He must have been looking out the window, because he just instantly is out the door, "Don't touch the boy!"
Yeah.
Before he even could see what was going on. That jumped out at me, too. But if you're in the world, you can suppose that, maybe he saw things through the window, and that's why he burst out the door. But so Arlen's a good knight insofar as he protects the innocent in the name of the mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Dunk does catch a wound as well. He gets stabbed in the leg, which throughout the following of Arlen, he's in a rough spot. He's very pale. He's drinking water that makes him throw up. He's not in a good spot. And I feel like Arlen knew he was being followed.
Oh, yeah. Because
there was one shot of him like at his campsite while Dunk was violently throwing up. And you could see he's like, I don't know, like 20 feet away. So I feel like Arlen knows he's there. He's just like, I don't know. I can't lead another boy to his death like I did my nephew kind of thing. So he's not.
I'm glad they did have him throw up, because when he bent down in this little stagnant pool of water and started drinking, I was like, oh no, you need to be drinking running water. Yeah. Never drink from a stagnant pond. And then they cut to him barfing. I was like, okay, good. That's good. Good. They kept track of that.
Yeah, right when he bent down for that, I was like, ooh, no, not that water. No, please, God.
I mean, I'm not an outdoor survivalist or anything, but even I know you don't drink stagnant water.
Yeah. So that was appropriately gross. And we even see like Dunk, he manages to get into like Arlen's camp at one point and like take out his sword and look at it. He's doing very Egg-like things, you know, from when Egg was riding Dunk's horse in the stable and like, yeah, pretending to be a knight. Dunk was basically doing the same thing with Arlen. And he goes to pick up the helmet and wants to put it on, but it's from the grave of presumably Arlen's nephew. Right. And so like he stops himself and he puts it back, I think recognizing that would be disrespectful and whatnot. But yeah, so that's our first look that like someone close to Arlen died, and putting together with the montage from earlier, that is his nephew. And it kind of drives, Arlen into this drunken stupor going across the countryside. Apparently he's singing in Dothraki. He's singing some Dothraki song. One of the show people posted about it, and even in the subtitles it says singing in Dothraki. Which I thought it was just gibberish. Just like, just going crazy. He even stabs himself because he falls asleep drunk at one point. But that's when we see Dunk. He is stumbling behind him. He finally falls down. Dunk cannot go any further, and Arlen finally acknowledges him and gives him a little water skin, probably actually a wine skin, and says, "Get up." And that's when we cut back to the battle. And so if we cut out all the Rafe stuff, or at least pared it down so it still makes sense with how Dunk got to following Arlen, I would be perfectly fine with that. Because, to your point, I feel like it did kind of drag a little bit with Rafe.
Well, I think if they had sprinkled all of that story throughout the last 3 episodes, whenever somebody mentioned something about Flea Bottom, if he remembered Rafe and them living in the sewers, and if he had mentioned, if somebody mentioned something about Sir Arlen and he remembered being, sprinkled it throughout, and didn't just eat up so much of this one episode in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
It was a huge tonal shift. And I didn't appreciate it. So this episode wasn't as good as the others, in my opinion, but we move on to Arlen saying, "Get up." And that's when he woke up. But the fight wasn't over.
Right. Yes. It was just getting started.
Right.
And I knew the battle wouldn't be like, you can't have like a 30-minute battle, right? So like, I see why they would shove this flashback into the middle of it. Yes. I was trying to remember the word for it. So I see why they would shove it into here, because it's like, okay, well, where do we have the most space in the whole series? Like, it would be weird putting some of the last episode into this episode of like getting all the 7 together, just because by the end it would be kind of like how you were saying with the tonal shift of the flashback and whatnot. You'd get that from this other angle. But yeah, I do think I like how the Arlen part of it and him saying "get up" is right in the middle of the battle when Dunk needs to remember that. And then even towards the end of the battle here, we'll still talk about it a little bit, but towards the end when Dunk is staring out and he hears that again, "Get up," one last time from Arlen, is because he's drawing on Fleabot. It's not the noble knight or whatever that's seeing him through the day inside of him. It's the Flea Bottom. And I think this even goes back to when Lionel was talking about in the first episode, he mentions that there are many men within a man, and the knight in Dunk isn't seeing him through this battle because he's not, a well-trained knight. Right. He has the personality, like the virtues of a knight, but he doesn't have the skills of a knight. And so what's going to see him through this? It's not the knight within Dunk that's going to see him through it. It's the Flea Bottom within Dunk that's going to see him through this. It's that, that constant dogged spirit, as Egg puts it. So like a lot of these kinds of comments from other characters are really playing into at least that aspect of it that I really appreciated. But yeah, they could have probably like halved that flashback. and
to your point about his fighting styles, he got unhorsed real quickly. He got damaged. His left eye was completely covered up and bulging, and he was getting stabbed and cut, and Arian put a knife through his hand.
Yeah.
And he was losing, and we'll get to one point. But when he started to win was when he was getting scrappy. When he got Arian on the ground and could just wail on him, because that's Dunk's, not to put too fine a point on it, strength. His size, not his grace, not his skill, his I'm gonna F you up with my fists. That's how he won.
Yeah, I made the similar note. Yeah, just he wasn't doing good with the sword and trying to, because Arian, he was pulling the moves. He was doing like full on combos and stuff. Like Arian had his number, and yeah, when he threw his sword like behind his back and it just dug into Dunk's leg and stuff. Like, man, Arian's really fucking good at this.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Dunk started, getting up in him, and there was one sequence towards the end after Dunk gets back up where Arian like kind of slashes down with his sword, but his like gorget or whatever the hell it was kind of like catches it and it's stuck there, and then Dunk just like fucking pulls some wrestling moves, gets on top of him, rips his shield off, because he's got straps or whatever. He's like, no, give me that fucking thing, motherfucker. And then just goes to town. Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, so and then if Dunk was in the Avengers, he'd be the Hulk.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny too, because like Arian, even before killing him, he's yelling at him to yield, because Arian is still like, okay, I got this far. Can we just please stop? Can I just win this, please? We take your hand and foot and we've done with this. Come on, man. Like, just yield. But Dunk says, nope.
So in the future, when he gets in a fight, Egg needs to yell, Dunk, smash.
Right. And Egg screaming when Dunk finally starts showing some life again. He's like, way! It was so shrill and piercing, but yeah, you could really feel that Egg is on Dunk's side, obviously, even with his dad and his brothers in the fight. Like Darren is in this fight too. We don't really see him, but
I heard his name called.
Makar.
I heard someone yell Darren. I think it was when Arian was getting beat by Dunk. He yelled out for Darren to come and help him.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because I did like how Makar, when Dunk like slashes Arian's leg, and Arian's like calling, obviously wounded, Makar like throws a guy to the side and he starts running up, but Lionel and Baylor have to like hold him back, and he's like, my boy.
Yeah, I heard that.
That was a sweet moment, even though obviously Makar is not happy with Arian and whatnot. He's still like, these are his boys. He wants them to succeed, even if they are wrong.
Kind of like I am with you.
Yeah, and I'm always wrong. So. But I thought that was a kind of sweet moment.
But we do need to address the elephant in the room. Dunk died.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how else to kind of interpret that.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, and this was the thing I had with not reading the books. I didn't know much about Game of Thrones. But in Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow died, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, I know that they kill characters in this show. Mm-hmm. I guess that's it for Jon Snow. Nope, he just wakes up. And they did the same thing here. It's like, oh, wow, they're really, I mean, he was bloodied and beaten and stabbed enough, and he keels over and dies. And I was like, well, what are they going to do now? Because he's very clearly dead, and he just gets back up. So, is that the gods, the seven gods? Did they, because isn't that what brought Jon Snow back to life, one of the gods?
Yeah, it was some like, it was the red god, like the priestess did like some
that
ritual
woman?
or something. Yeah, the red woman. So like it wasn't associated with the seven gods. It was associated with the red god, which is Jon Snow ties into some prophecy of the red god and whatever.
Okay.
So
well,
so we do know.
What? What do we know? Because I don't know.
Oh, we know, as you know, we do know that like magic does exist in the world, and it seems to ebb and flow with the presence of dragons. Like when there were dragons, there was more magic, and with the dragons being dead, there's less magic, but it is still kind of there. And there's weird kind of esoteric stuff in George R. R. Martin's world. None of it is really presented in the shows so much, but there is magic, and there are hints that the gods are real.
Mm-hmm.
So we could take this as, the gods intervening. As Arian said, with the whole wanting a trial by 7, is that it gives the gods more opportunity to weigh in with the more fighting in their honor or whatever.
So do you like how this was handled in the show?
No, I don't like the whole, and it's mostly just down to presentation. I'm fine with Dunk dying and coming back. But I like there to be some ambiguity in there, because in my head, like I said at the top of this episode, it's just, if your eyes are open, staring off into the void, and you aren't breathing, you're dead. That's the death norm.
That's movie code. That's telling the audience this character's now dead.
Yes, yeah. And so that's what I take it as. But if your eyes closed, it's like, oh, he's knocked out, or this or that, because your body still has the function of being able to close your eye. Like, your eyes just staring out is because your body has no more function, and your eyes, like, there's no... your eyes being closed is not the default position. Right. So it's not like your eyes relax and close. So if you die, your eyes will be open. That's how I take that. And I don't like that they use that in this instance, and they use it again a little bit later. We'll talk about that in the next episode, but I don't like that visual being used and then just...
Oh, just kidding.
Here I am. Yeah, I'm awake again. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't like him jerking the audience around and presenting something as fact and then doing a turnaround, saying, nope, we're not going there after all. Yeah, so I thought that was weird, and then I sort of wrote it off as a Jon Snow situation where the gods, since this is a trial of the gods, for the gods, it's not by the gods, but maybe they brought him back to life. And I guess for me, I don't like my movies to have science and magic interacting. I like it to be a sci-fi show or a fantasy show. And so we know, even in the first Game of Thrones show, there wasn't quite enough magic until Daenerys walked out of the fire with dragons. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is there's magic in this world. But, there's not wizards casting fireballs.
Lightning bolt!
Yeah.
So I don't think there's enough magic. Like, this is the first time we've seen it in this show. And it just, I was like, oh, he's dead. They copped out. No, he's not dead. Didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if, like, we could see a little bit more, like, his breathing starting to slow, and, like, he's on the verge of dying, but that's when he hears Arlen say, get up again. Because, like I said, like, I really like that aspect of it's Arlen and the flea bottom in Dunk that gets him back up, and that's where he finds the strength is in his upbringing and in that kind of tenaciousness that is required from living in flea bottom and whatnot.
And I think for me, it would have, like I said, if they had sprinkled some of the backstory here and there in other episodes and just really focused on, for this part, when he fell and his eye was open, like you said, we maybe hear a heartbeat slowing and breathing, and we fade into him remembering just the last bit with Arlen when he says, right before he basically says, get up. If that flashback was shorter between the time when he fell and the time he gets up, it would have felt less like he died.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would have done
I can see that.
this differently for me as an audience member. It didn't, I don't know. That's why this episode isn't my favorite.
I don't know, because episode 3 was just really fun with enjoying the tournament and stuff, but this is definitely, like, this episode and episode 3 are definitely, like, my two, I think, favorites.
Okay.
But, yeah, and we finished the battle. I think we already talked about it. Yeah, Dunk rips the shield off, beats Aerie into a pulp, and then he just drags him up and, like, pulls him up so everyone could hear him say, I yield. And then he just fucking tosses him to the side, like, get the fuck out of here, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
That was a fun moment of just catharsis. Like, yes, finally, Dunk can just manhandle this little princeling. Fuck that dude.
Exactly.
And like I mentioned with the audio earlier, it's just, I love that difference of when we're down there with Dunk and Arian, it sounds almost demonic, like the voices, because of how, Dunk has been battered over the head multiple times, and he's not 100% there. So everything sounds really crazy. And then it cuts to the general perspective, and it sounds all normal. Then back down to them, and he's I yield, like that weird kind of vocal distortion that they have. It was just a nice touch. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that muffled sound.
Yeah. But I gotta give some shout outs to my boy Raymond throughout the fight. He saves Dunk like twice. He knocks Arian off of Dunk early in the fight when he's still on his horse and whatnot. Yeah, that was Dunk doing a drive-by. Just fucking And then at the end there, right when Dunk is kind of like dragging Arian, Raymond is putting the beat down on his rotten cousin. He's doing some cool sword moves, and then he takes him to the ground and whatnot. So Raymond is really giving it his all. I love Raymond. He's a great character.
Yeah.
And of course, Lionel Baylor holding back Makar.
Mm-hmm. So he's pretty. They take Dunk backstage wherever they go, pulling off his armor. He's in bad shape, and Baylor shows up.
Yeah. Oh man.
He offers a bit of advice about how to clean the wound. He just seems to be normal, conversationally. Oh well.
Yep.
This, and you don't want to put that on him. He'll die. And take off my helmet.
Mm-mm. And that, right when I wasn't sure, right when they started talking about it, he was like, "Oh, my visor's cracked." And I was like, I mean, I don't think he had a visor. And clearly, like, the helmet is shaped so that he wouldn't have a visor. I couldn't remember when I first watched it if there was like a visor that came down and maybe it cracked off, like he's saying, like the visor's cracked or whatever. Maybe that's what he was referring to. But then Raymond gives him a look like, okay, yeah.
Well, the line that I loved was when Baylor said, "My fingers feel like wood."
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that's not good.
Right. And yeah, he's Raymond's trying to pull the helmet off, but he can't. So he asks for Steely Pate's help. And yeah, Pate's just like, oh, okay, it's crashed into the gorge, or, cracked into the gorget. So we'll just need to. Then, like, the yanking off, like, I can't actually remember if there was like a sucking noise when he pulled it off, but that's what I just remember in my head.
Yeah.
Because, he pulls it off and there's just fucking. The back of the skull is just.
I love how, with the audience, we see Baylor's face. We see Raymond behind him. We see Steely Pate pull off the helmet and their reactions, and we don't know what they're reacting to.
Yeah.
Until Baylor's like, what? And he turns around, and he's missing half of the back of his head.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where your brain is, in the head.
Yep. So I imagine when Steely Pate pulled the helmet off, like, some of his brain is probably stuck inside there.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think all of his brains were in his head, but...
Yeah.
Hard to come back from that one.
Yep. And that's the thing, too, is, like, when Baylor came off originally and was talking, I was like, oh, okay, he made it. You know, we only lost those two Humphrey guys, which they weren't really characters anyway, so I'm not too concerned about those. Sucks that they died for Dunk, but, it is what it is. And then, Baylor starts going on about, visor crack, wooden hands, kind of, and then,
So this show has had two fantastic twist endings, with us finding out Egg is royalty, and now this.
Yeah, Baylor, the heir to the Iron Throne, is dead. And the one who's most deserving of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And interestingly, remember Darren's dream from the last episode? There was a dragon whose wings were so large that they could encompass the whole area they were in, and he was dead on top of you, Dunk. And Dunk asks, did I kill it? And he says, I don't know. Well, at the end here, when Baylor falls, Dunk gets up under him and is, Baylor is dying on his knee. And he's like saying, I'm sorry. He's crying. And that's where we end the episode. So there's this great dragon who metaphorically, his wings are so large because he's such a good man that they could encompass the whole area. And he is dead atop of Dunk. And Dunk did not kill him. He fought for Dunk.
Yeah.
So I think maybe Darren's dream was referring to this. And it's just, oh man, it's so sad. I at several points in this episode, I was just like, man, I really love this episode, but I feel really bad in really liking it because of how just sad it is, with Rafe dying, Dunk being so sad, Arlen's nephew being dead, driving him to the point of drunkenness, and now Baylor's dead. Oh man, it hits on so many different points throughout the episode of just life here sucks.
Yeah. So I gotta say, even though this isn't my favorite, the only parts I don't like are too much flashbacks. But, the whole action and the whole narrative driving forward part, the Baylor dying and everything, was fantastic.
Yeah. At the end of this, I was like, oh man, what is going to happen? Because obviously it's not his fault. Like, it's not Dunk's fault, but is Makar going to take out his anger on Dunk for, because it was Makar who killed Baylor.
Yeah.
Baylor even says, like, oh yeah, the cracked thing, or that's probably my brother. And then like the way he looks at Raymond, he's like, he's very strong. Like, it's just a funny, oh yes, my brother, he's very strong. I love him very much. Oh, I'm dead. Like,
I always hated him.
Yeah. So that sucked. And of course, these are the two brothers who worked together to end the Blackfire Rebellion earlier. Makar was the anvil, and Baylor was the hammer in their final battle. So they worked together a lot. They loved each other very much. It wasn't Makar's intent to kill his brother, but
No.
It's a trial. Everyone's throwing swings, and it was, death is definitely a part of these trials. So it's not like they were holding back.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, it just happens.
And not to defend Makar, but I can see how if you're in that situation back in those days, you don't want to, if you're fighting your brother, whom you don't want to kill, you wouldn't use a sword because that's stabby and cutty and bleedy. So he's using a mace or a morning star to hit him in the back with like a ball on the end. And you're like, yeah, if I hit him in the helmet with this, it's not going to hurt that bad, right? Well, it can. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Makar meant to kill him.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he meant to, but I mean, maces are definitely the preferred method against armor.
Because it bashes, but it doesn't dismember or anything like that.
It's hard to dismember people in armor anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I think Arian using a sword was actually really weird. I mean, he starts with the Morning Star, the flail or whatever, which I know that flails, there might be like some historical precedent for like, the ball on a chain. But man, I just really don't like them. I like them in Diablo, playing Diablo. I love grabbing them. But in real life, I'm just like that. It feels like you lose so much force than if you just had a solid
instead of
stick.
Just swinging a sword, you have to like get that mace ready and make sure it's swinging in the right path before you lurch out. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem as an effective of a weapon.
Yeah. But of course, once Arian lost that, he goes to his sword and whatnot. But against like chainmail and plate mail, anything that's not like one of that stabbing dirk he had that stabbed into the chainmail, that's good because it'll put pressure inside the chainmail ring and burst it. That's the goal, at least. But like with those big long swords, like you're not really doing a whole lot other than, if you hit someone with chainmail or armor, like they'll get like a bruise or something. But other than that, you're not really doing too much. So those maces and stuff, it's like, man, Makar, if you didn't want to kill your brother, you probably should not have used the mace, man. Like you probably should have just stuck with the sword. But he was also fighting Lionel. Like Makar was taking on Baylor and Lionel at the same time. And I think Makar also like threw off another dude. So like he was like 3 or 4 dudes he was fighting throughout this battle. Which actually, another quick shout out to Baylor for unhorsing Makar. It made me feel like Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Where like, all this craziness happening and whatnot. But then at one point, Baylor like grabs a broken lance and unhorses his brother. And the way that the camera was shot reminded me exactly of Jon Snow unhorsing someone with his sword in that battle, like towards the beginning of that battle. So it was it looked better in this go around, just because obviously the effects and the camera techniques, whatever, have evolved. But yeah, I got a very strong Battle of the Bastards vibe from this whole craziness going on. And it's just 14 dudes, Battle of the Bastards was armies of thousands. This was just 14 dudes going at it, and man, it can get crazy. So I think they did an awesome job with the choreography and everything, because even with like the cutting and moving about and the hecticness, there were characters like Arian doing full on like combos and moves, and not just Dunk's wild swings. Like there was the effort put into developing each character's kind of fighting style to help highlight the difference between the unsophisticated Dunk and the more sophisticated knights and nobles and whatnot. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I can imagine though, as the actors, they must have had fun getting all dirty and muddy. And to me, I think that for them, that would be a lot of fun to shoot that scene.
Yeah.
knowing they're not going to die.
Yeah, I can't imagine too, like with all the armor that they had on, if it was metal or not. I haven't watched the behind the scenes for these episodes. I'll probably will after this. But man, if that was like full like metal and stuff, that would be so heavy. You get so tired.
Especially
But
when
it
it's
would be
caked
really
on
fun.
with mud, it would be even heavier.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it would be a lot of fun. It would be super fun. But yeah, that takes us to the end of this episode, you know.
Yeah,
We're
only
left.
one more left. And
Yeah, one more left, and we're on uncertain terms. Will Dunk recover from his wounds? Will the Targaryens seek more revenge upon him for Baelor's death?
Will
Who knows?
aliens come down from the sky? But
Will the gods show themselves?
we've got one more episode, but the good news is they're in the middle of, or maybe just finishing up shooting season 2, so we know we're going to have more next year.
Yep. They're
But
shooting
we
for
still
next
have
year, so-
one more episode for our review ramble.
Yes, for our Rambleview. Yeah, so we will catch y'all next time for episode 6 of Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I would say we have had a very merry trial by 7.
Yes.
So now, please have a well-earned rest and recovery before our next episode.
Yes, I agree. Rest well, fellow Westerosians. Are they in Westeros?
Yeah, Westeros.
Is that the whole thing? Everything's called Westeros, and then there's kingdoms inside?
Yeah, Westeros is the whole like continent that they're on.
Okay.
And then yeah, the 7 kingdoms are all throughout there. But then you also have the landmass to the east where the Dothraki and stuff are.
And the Dorne
Called
people?
No, Dorne is the desert at the bottom of Westeros. But yeah, I was gonna say Easteros for the other one, but it's also it's called Essos.
Gotcha.
But Easteros sounds better.
Right.
Alrighty. Well, fare thee well, mortals, and cut. You know, the